accused the Royalists of being the Cavallero, the hated Spanish Catholic cavalry that had put down the Dutch in previous years. For the Roundheads! Now don't forget, we're in Suffolk, and Suffolk was a supporter of the Roundheads by and large. Well, if you look to the bottom of the field, to your right-hand side, in their burgundy coats, we can see some Royalist infantry marching onto the battlefield. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you going to cheer for the Cavaliers? Parliamentarians at the top of the hill, we can see with their artillery in the centre of the redoubt, and their infantry on both flanks to give a peppering fire in towards the parliamentarian lines. The musketeers on both sides are armed with smooth-bore, muzzle-loading matchlock muskets. Maximum range of around 200 to 300 yards, but only effective at about 50 yards. A good soldier would get off about 2 shots a minute. If he was extremely good, he might get off 3 shots a minute. So it's a very inaccurate, short-range, slow-firing weapon. And this is why the musketeers need the pike against the enemy horse. And we can now see some Royalist pikemen being advanced up the hill. Coming out, will they drive off the Royalist musketeers? So this position now appears to be invested by the Royalists and also of the Marquis of Winchester's regiment. And now we can see the parliamentarians sending some of their troops down the hill to see if they can drive off the Royalist position. Parliamentarian pike division there coming down the hill. Pike's going to the charge. But the parliamentarian counter-attack appears to have been thwarted. Their advance has stopped. The Royalists are holding their ground. Even with parliamentarian cavalry there, modelled army in 1645, both the Royalist and the parliamentarian armies were ununiformed. What this means is if a regiment of foot is raised, the colonel of that regiment will choose what colour coats his men will wear. Now we can now see the Royalist infantry, they're not happy of the King's army. The Royalists have now deployed a lot more guns under the cover of the skirmish screen that was sent out to keep the parliamentarians busy. The Royalists have now deployed a large gun battery. The parliamentarians at the top of the hill still confident that the high ground and their redoubt will be too tough a nut to crack for these Royalist troops. And we can see the Royalists now in some disarray withdrawing. They appear to have succeeded in their aim of pushing back the parliamentarian horse. Parliamentarians now very much restricted to the top of the hill. The Royalists have now deployed their gun battery and can now begin to rain heavy fire down onto the parliamentarians in their redoubt at the top of this hill. A bloody civil war in England. One side to defend the rights of the King, the other side wanting to promote the rights of the Parliament. And we can see a large body of parliamentarian infantry. In the corner of the colours, the cross of St George, the symbol of England. Both the Parliamentarian and the Royalist troops carry the Cross of St George on their flag, because they both believe that they are the true English army, as we've clearly seen here. Royalist officers shouting orders at their men: reform your ranks and files, stand firm. The Royalist troops dismayed at the casualties they've taken merely to take this ground. How many more casualties will there be before they get to the top of that hill? More Royalist troops of the Oxford Company coming onto the battlefield, forming up with their comrades. But one Parliamentarian officer, is he overconfident? Royalists now bringing up more infantry. The Royalists have now established their position on the battlefield. They've brought up more guns, and now they're beginning to press and attack home on their left flank, on the far right flank going in. Cavalry of both sides being armed with a broadsword and usually carrying 2 pistols and maybe a carbine as well. You can see the Royalists on the left-hand flank going up again, but taking more casualties, thinking better of it and retiring. And see the colours flying of the different regiments. The colours would be the heart and the soul of the unit. It was the colours that the soldiers would look to form upon this division. And now this battle, like the war as a whole, seems to have ground into a bloody stalemate. Both sides trying to force the other to withdraw. Royalists seem to be getting the worst of it at the moment. And the Royalists now in some disarray, with Parliamentarian horse now manoeuvring round the rear of the Royalist infantry. Forward. The Parliamentarian infantry on their left-hand side, on the Royalist right flank, have been deployed too far forward and can no longer be supported by the Parliamentarian guns. And they're just running back to the redoubt as quickly as they can. Parliamentarian officer shouting, "Hold!" And the Parliamentarians appear to have no reserves left to counter this move that the Royalists have now made. The Royalists are only a few yards away from the redoubt now. Will he parley, or will he stand and die? Will he defend his position to the last, or will he ask for surrender terms? Royalists now in the redoubt, they're taking the guns. Parliamentarian officer now surrounded by Royalist infantry. He tries to make a run for it, but he's cut down by the Royalist soldiers. Royalists have now taken the Parliamentarian flag.